All right. Welcome to United Astronomy Clubs of New Jersey. We're back again online for another great presentation. I want to thank you all for joining us here on Twitch and YouTube. Um, as a reminder, you can always check us out on our website, uacnj.org. It's where you can find a list of all the telescopes we have available to view through on our public nights from April through October, as well as a list of our member clubs, because it's always best to find your local astronomy club if you're thinking about getting into the hobby. In addition, you can check us out on our social media pages. We have Facebook, Instagram. We have a Discord channel for those who like to use Discord. They're all great places to ask questions, share your love of astronomy, whether that be through science that you're doing, or if you're doing any astrophotography. We love to see those images. Uh, Let's see. So, tonight's presentation is What's Up in the January Sky with Lonny Buinis. And I just dropped there it is. Okay, Lonnie has been giving the What's Up series at UACNJ since it opened in 1994. He received degrees from Stevens Institute of Technology in physics and computer science, then learned space art, animation, and video on his own. Lonnie is the only member of the IAAA.org who specializes in virtual reality worlds and wrote the first interactive space history ebook and is most pleased to have married Jen, his narrator. And with that, here is Lonnie.
Thank you as always, Kim. This series would not be possible without the vigorous support from other UACNJ members and the technical team. Tonight, Kim and Chris and Jeff are making this series possible. And we do this the first Saturday of each month. We've been doing this for many years. What's up in the January sky? And we've got a little summary right here on my opening image. There's lots to see this month, a lot of things happening, and a really nice alignment of planets. So if you were to go out and face south at 8 o'clock on the middle of the month, January 15th, you would find several planets lined up along an invisible line we astronomers call the ecliptic, which is merely the orbit of the Earth around the sun projected out into space. And you would find in the west, Venus and Saturn making a very nice close approach on the 15th. Not really. Close approach in the sky doesn't mean that they're close together in space. Venus and Saturn line up with Neptune, which would be impossible to see without a telescope. The planet Uranus, impossible to see with the naked eye unless you have super dark skies and really good eyesight. The bright planet Jupiter in the face of the bull, Taurus, and later on, Mars will be coming up higher and higher. They all line up in a really nice alignment that we'll be talking about shortly. You would also find the winter triangle of three bright and brightly colored stars, reddish star in Orion the Hunter, a bluish star in the Dog, and the small dog has a whitish star. And I am using the scientific terminology reddish, bluish, and whitish. So stop me if you have questions. We have a chat open, which later on Kim will remind me of any questions that you out there in Cyberland have, and I'll be very happy to make up an answer if I don't know it. With that, let's begin with recent news. Some people have seen the northern lights as far south as, well, not quite New Jersey as we did recently some months ago. Here's a recent map of where the aurora were, the end of the year. And you can see it reaches down not quite to New Jersey, but we think that with an ejection of material from the sun's corona, the sun's atmosphere, called a coronal mass ejection, or CME for short, that charged particles would be thrown at us from the sun. It takes a few days to get here. They hit the atmosphere and they cause air molecules to glow. Pretty cool. So be on the lookout for aurora, or aurorae, the plural, Hard to see, though, in New Jersey, especially if you have light pollution, as I do in my area in Bergen County. The events that I'm going to be talking about tonight are arrayed in all kinds of different formats at starwalk.space. Check it out. This is one new way they're doing it visually. And there's so much stuff happening that what I like to do is group it by different types of subjects, like everything to do with the moon, everything to do with planets. So I've done that here. And tonight I'm going to talk about the phases of the moon, about some beautiful planetary alignments, especially a meeting of Mars and the moon on the 14th, talking about a comet that we won't see, and two meteor showers, one of which is nice and bright. So those events I've highlighted in white. One of them is the Earth at perihelion. If you break up that word, para means close. Helios is the sun god, was. Helion, close to the sun, perihelion. The Earth is closest to the sun January 4th, today. But it's winter. How can that be? We'll talk about that in a minute. Every full moon, every month, has a special name. I liked last month's super cold moon, very descriptive. This January, we have the wolf moon. And a lot of these names come from Native Americans or from the Boy Scouts or Scouts of America. But there are alternative names besides the common name, like besides wolf moon, we have some poetic names and some long names. And one of my favorites is the Arapaho, when snow blows like spirits in the wind moon. And a nice short one, cold moon for the Cherokee. You can check all this out at the Farmer's Almanac. I don't work for any of the sites that I quote tonight, except at the very end, my own, because I am an amateur astronomer. So everything I say is wrong and made up. No, wait. That's not what amateur means. A professional astronomer gets paid to do it. Amateur astronomers like Kim and Chris and Jeff tonight, like all the people at UACNJ, do it for love. That's amateur astronomers. And we're here to help you learn about the sky. So let's take a look at some phases of the moon. I talked about the full moon. That's a terrible time to see anything else in the sky except bright stars and planets. But one of the best times is at the end of the month when the moon is in the daytime sky near the sun. We call it new. Also happens to be the beginning of the Lunar New Year. And that's at the end of the month, January 29th, when you can see nebulae, plural of nebula, which is a cloud of material collapsing to form stars and planets. When you can see star clusters, either open or globular clusters. Great time to see all these deep sky objects. And in case you can't see me doing it, I'm doing air quotes, deep sky objects. That's what we call them. A great time to see shadows on the moon is when it's at first quarter in 2 days. So let's take a look at that. To do it, I am going to use a program. I'm going to have to minimize for a second. In the meantime, while I'm opening up this free program called Stellarium, I wanted to show you my latest project, which has been concluded after several weeks of hard work. And this is a three-dimensional representation of the explosion in 1908 when a giant asteroid 200 feet across blew up in midair over the Tunguska River in Siberia. This is the first time that anyone has created a three-dimensional representation of the explosion. It was strong enough to knock down 80 million trees, and there were very few eyewitnesses back in 1908 in Siberia. What I'm going to do now is run a free program called Stellarium. And you can get this free program. You can download it. You can run it on a website without downloading it. You can run it on any mobile device. It's open source. It costs nothing. It will never cost anything. And it simulates the sky. is if you had a star map like a planisphere. Have you ever seen these circular star charts? Planispheres, they sell them at science museums, gift shops of planetaria, and at the UACNJ gift shop. Shameless plug. Sorry. Where you can spin the sky to any direction, any time of year or night, or even daytime. But what you can't do on a flat map, a planisphere, which you can do with a computer software, is zoom in to see the true size of the Big Dipper, which at this time at night in January is low in the sky. I'm starting in the north by the red letter N. So I urge all of you to go out and do what we're doing here tonight. Run outside, maybe when we're unfinished talking during the presentation. Go out, look for the letter N in north, right? No? Look for the Big Dipper in the Great Bear, which looks just like a bear. No? How about now? There are tricks you can do with computer software that you can't do outside, but you can use your imaginations. I can even make it more difficult by removing all the identifiers. Now can you find the Big Dipper? It's more difficult when the skies are very clear, partly because the lower part of the Dipper is going to be missing in trees and houses. 7 or 8 stars make up the Big Dipper. I say 8 for those of you who have sharp eyesight. You'll notice the double star in the bend of the handle. But I'm going to make things a little bit easier by leaving up the kind of lines you see on a star chart or star map or planisphere. The Big Dipper helps us find a way around the sky. So I'm going to quickly show you the stars that never rise or set, that are always spinning around the North Pole, which is not at, but very close to a bright star we call Polaris, or the brightest star, Alpha, in the Greek alphabet, in Ursa Minor, the Ursa Bear Minor Small, the Bear Small, or Small Bear. Little Bear, Little Dipper. Big Bear, Big Dipper. Notice the North Celestial Pole, that's where the Earth's North Pole is pointing in space, not quite at the North Pole star. In the Southern Hemisphere, they do not have any bright star that ever gets close to the South Celestial Pole. So we are blessed to have a nice, fairly bright, visible star near it. Also in this part of the sky, the Draco, the house-shaped group of stars is not a house, that's a king. And if you think that's a lie, how about the W or M-shaped stars, depending on time of year? The queen. They look just like a queen and king, right? Can you see me shaking my head? Once you know where north is, you can find the other directions. Around Christmas, were you looking for the Christmas cross, otherwise known as Cygnus the Swan, lying low on the horizon around the end of the year? The bright star in the summer triangle, Deneb, still visible, but the other stars have set, including Vega, which will be our pole star, Vega or Vega, nice bright star that we saw in what's up in the July and August skies. You also heard me talk about the great big square here, which not surprisingly, we amateur astronomers call the Great Square. How did you know? For Pegasus, the flying horse, the winged horse, is it winged or winged? Winged or winged? Tomato. Beneath the stars that we saw before in summer, the fishes. But now we're getting into the stars of winter, when we face not west, but southwest and south. We've got some of the brightest stars in the sky are in winter, and also happens to be some of the clearest skies in winter. Nice, steady, cold air, not so comfortable for viewing, but better for viewing, for telescope viewing. I pointed out Venus, which at 8:15 and 13 seconds is fairly low in the sky. Bright planet Venus. Let's center that for a second. If I were to zoom in and I didn't have any trees in the way, I would see even in a pair of large binoculars or a small telescope that Venus has a phase like the moon. In fact, this phase has a special name, dichotomy, which I didn't even learn until about a week ago. I never knew what that meant. So it's always possible to learn something new about the sky. Lots of stuff to learn, and there's always new discoveries happening. Venus was near the moon earlier in the month. We're looking at the sky on the 20th, right down here. I'm sorry, on the 4th. That's tonight. Saturn nearby, and the moon, the crescent moon, is near Saturn tonight. If the sky were clear, you would see that. The planet Neptune is amongst the stars of the fishes. Does that mean that it's close to these stars in space? If I were to click on Neptune, I can't even see it. There it is. It's, how far away is it? Distance from the sun, 29, 30 astronomical units. We're rounding off. 30 astronomical units from the sun or Earth. Earth is 1 astronomical unit from the sun, which is how many million miles? You've all heard this. 93 million miles. Round off to 100, that's about 100, right? 100 times 30 is 3,000 million. That's 3 billion miles. And yet, compare that with any of the stars in Pisces, the fishes. 44, 45 light years away. Light years. An astronomical unit, it takes light about 8 1/3 minutes to go 1 unit. So 8 times 30 is 240 minutes divided by 60 is, anyone? 4 hours. 4 hours away, Neptune, 45 years away by light. That's how astronomers measure distances, by light. Looking further towards the south, past Cetus, the sea monster, the one who threatened Andromeda, the princess. We talked about her and her mother earlier in the year. We're coming to the bright stars of winter facing south and east. And we're going to start with Orion because he helps us find our way around the sky. Thousands of years ago, Orion was a female deity, not male. This was a key element in matriarchal societies about 5,000 years ago or more. Later on became a male deity, a hunter holding a club and a skin of an animal, a belt and a sword hanging from the belt. Can you imagine? Right? I could turn on the picture, but I'm going to let you use your imaginations, as did our ancestors as recently as a century or two ago, before light pollution, before artificial lights. My grandmother was born in 1896. Electricity was brand new. She saw the tail of Halley's Comet from horizon to zenith overhead because the Earth passed right through the comet's tail. You can't do that anymore. Can see hardly anything. You would be hard pressed with a pair of binoculars in Bergen County to look at the sword of Orion and see a fuzzy blob in the middle. Can you see it? A little bit closer? A little closer? This is a famous nebula, word that means cloud. And it's glowing by its own reddish light, the light of hydrogen gas, excited hydrogen gas. The hydrogen is excited. I don't know if any of you are excited to learn about the sky as I am, but that's why I do this. Love to do it. Now, why are parts of the nebula blue? Would we even see this? If you look at this in a telescope, everything would look kind of dullish green because the human eye is not sensitive to these delicate colors at low light levels. But astronomical long exposure pictures do show red hydrogen gas which reflects bluish starlight from young, hot blue stars. The sun, yellow star, is a boring middle-aged star, average temperature, and then the very hottest stars are bluish. The very coolest stars are reddish, red dwarfs, red giants. The sun would look yellowish from a long way off in space. And that's not the sun from space. The sun is very close to Earth. This is the famous Orion Nebula, M42, 41 Ori C. And you can see it even in binoculars. We have stars that are far from us, hundreds to thousands of light years away, 800 light years, 1900 light years, 900 light years. A lot of these things are very distant from us. You can use Orion's belt to find other things. If you were to point upward from the belt to the west or right, if you're facing south, this way is west, you'll come to the Hyades star cluster with the bright star Alpha Tauri. Alpha in Taurus. What's Taurus? Anybody born under the sign of Taurus? The horns, the face, the bull, Taurus. Taurus is disfigured right now in January by Jupiter, the planet Jupiter. Even in a small telescope or a pair of binoculars, you can see little stars following Jupiter night after night, back and forth in a straight line. The 4 giant moons of Jupiter, these would be planets if they weren't orbiting Jupiter. They are large. Even the smallest is a little smaller than our moon, but it is the brightest. In small telescopes, you can see bands on Jupiter that are wider than the Earth is big. Earth, 8,000 miles, Jupiter, 11 times that. In larger telescopes, there's a ton of detail. In astronomy magazines, I like to say a wealth of detail. I once counted 12 instances of the phrase wealth of detail in one issue of Sky and Telescope magazine. These have some of the most interesting moons in the solar system. This one, Io, is covered in sulfur compounds, looks like a pizza in close-up, full of volcanic activity. It's being pulled on by Jupiter's gravity with a surface that is plastic-y, scientific term, plastic-y, right? Being pulled, it's kind of like taffy. It's continually being remade. Almost no craters, giant volcanoes, Io. The second moon from Jupiter, Europa, covered with ice, might be an abode of life. We're not sure. We got some bad news recently. The ice was thicker than we thought. There is an ocean of water inside with organic matter, hydrogen compounds, carbon, like life on Earth. But is there advanced life? Are there thermal vents at the bottom of the ocean? We don't know. We are sending a mission to Europa sometime this decade. Fascinating moons. And the biggest moon in the solar system is Ganymede. They all look like stars in small telescopes or binoculars. Fuzzy disks, even in the largest telescopes. Why is everything moving? If I stand still, the whole sky seems to drift slowly. Why is that? If you have a telescope without a clock drive or a computer to compensate, things will move out of your field of view. The Earth is rotating, right? Once per day. So we need special clock drives to counter that motion when we observe. If you follow Orion's belt past the Hyades star cluster, straight line up past the bull, you'll come to another open cluster of stars younger, the 7 sisters, actually numbering in the dozens of stars, a young star cluster. I usually see 7. Some of you might count 8 in binoculars or telescope dozens. Recently discovered that this star cluster might be merely moving through a beautiful cloud of dust reflecting light in blue. We used to think that this was the dust that these stars are made from, it looks like that might no longer be true. That's a relatively new discovery. The Pleiades, the Seven Sisters, famous logo of an automobile manufacturer. Which one? There'll be a quiz later. Which automobile manufacturer has the Seven Sisters as its logo? Some people mistake this for the Little Dipper. It's much smaller. The planet Uranus is nearby. The planets Uranus and Neptune are so far from us that look how far I have to zoom in to even barely see its disk. Yet with my little telescope recently, I was able to see the disks of 4 giant planets in one night: Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. Even in the largest telescopes on Earth, Uranus is a fairly featureless ball with a whitish equatorial band that's tipped at a weird angle of 98 degrees. Uranus must have gotten hit by something big in the past that pushed it over on its side. We cannot see the rings of Uranus in telescopes from Earth. Too faint. Past Jupiter, later on at night toward the east, past the twins, Gemini, look for the brilliant red planet Mars. Mars is not close to us right now. At its closest distance, it's easier to see features on Mars, but it's always an interesting challenge to try to see them in a telescope. Come to UICNJ April through October, look through our telescopes. Sometimes we project images on the side of one of the several observatories, so you can see large groups can see at once without waiting in line. But it is fun to look through a telescope and see the light from the past coming to us. What do I mean from the past? It takes light time to reach us from Mars. At 0.6 AU, 2/3 of 8 is quick. What's 2/3 of 8? 16/3, about 5 minutes, up to 15 minutes. Takes time for light to reach us. Again, every time we look in the night sky at different objects, you're looking into the past different amounts of time. Fascinating. Astronomers have to account for that when they make simulations of the early universe that we can study with the James Webb Space Telescope. On Mars, even in a small telescope, you can see a whitish cap of frozen carbon dioxide and some frozen water. You can see dark brown markings, brownish grayish markings, lava outcroppings, and the rest of the planet covered in sand, silica. Lots to see this month, lots to see. But the reason that I started here, because I was talking about the moon. So let us travel through time. We can do that in Stellarium by changing the date, but not the time of night. So if you were to go out and face south night after night, going to peek toward the west so I can watch what happens to the moon on the 4th, on the 5th, on the 6th, 7th, what's happening to the moon? The moon is moving around the Earth every 29.5 days by the phases, every 27.33 days actually by the stars. All right, so the motion of the moon around the Earth and the Earth around the sun complicates things and makes it look like the moon takes longer to go around the Earth. 29.5 is still doesn't fit right into 12 months per year. Average there is about 31. So sometimes we have 2 full moons or 2 new moons in 1 month. So night after night, 7, 8, 9, 10, let's follow it all the way to full moon. Oh, and something interesting happens on the 13th. Look at this. The moon is going to occult Mars. Let's track Mars. There's a way to do that. In Stellarium, it's select and spacebar. And if I go over time, 41, 42, what's happening? The moon is moving quickly enough that we can watch what's called an occultation of Mars by the moon. And that happens at 21 hours, 17, 18, 19 minutes What's 2119? That's military time. Subtract 12. 21 minus 12 is, I'll give you a moment to think about that. 19 p.m. Watch on the 13th for an occultation of the planet Mars. Takes about 32 seconds. Should I do it? There you go. Gone. Comes back a little bit later. There. Just a matter of minutes. No, sorry, hours. Within less than 2 hours, Mars has cleared the moon. So you can watch the phases of the moon this month, as we just did, but you can simulate them much faster with software. Right now, tonight, the moon is in crescent phase. Crescent phase. And
Quick question.
by
You're using EST for your time, correct?
Eastern Standard Time, correct. Our time zone. Yeah, thank you, Kim. Yeah, feel free to interrupt with questions. This is a semi-informal presentation. If I were a professional astronomer, then I would charge you. But no, it's all free. We never charge for our presentations at UACNJ. I'm winking because I'm kidding, but I know some of you may take me seriously. So that's the moon. Let's go back. Whoops. And look at planets. If the Earth is at perihelion, closest to the sun, why? Why would that happen? Well, the Earth does not orbit the sun in a circle. It orbits in something called an ellipse, a slightly, very slightly square circle. Here's the difference. Aphelion, away, perihelion, P, A for away, P for pretty close, perihelion. So we're a little closer to the sun, but the Earth's north hemisphere with New Jersey, because the Earth is tilted to its orbit around the sun, the axis of Earth tilted 23.4 degrees, we get indirect sunlight spread out when it hits the ground. It's colder. We have winters. But sometime in the past, perihelion happened in the summer in the Northern Hemisphere, and our Northern Hemisphere summers were much warmer, and these are called Milankovitch cycles, and they contribute to global climate change, something not usually taken into account by global climate change alarmists. January 10th, Venus is at its greatest angle in the sky away from the sun, east. So if you're facing south, where is west? To your right, where the sun sets. East is the opposite direction from west, left. Look left of the setting sun. Venus is up high this time of the month. January 4 is right today. January 10th, it'll be even higher. Great time to see the innermost planet, second innermost planet, sorry. Looks beautiful, but if you were to go there, you would simultaneously be burned up, dissolved, and crushed. So any Venus tourist takers? Why? Why? Because Venus has got a runaway greenhouse effect. 900 degrees, 90 atmospheres of pressure. It's like being in the ocean at depth, and sulfuric acid in the atmosphere. So you'd be dissolved, burned up, and crushed simultaneously. Let's not go to Venus. Not yet. NASA's planning to send a mechanical space probe to land on Venus. Mechanical, run by a wound spring. Because the other space probes that went there, which ran electronically, all failed after an hour and a half. Just can't take the conditions. Mars is closest to Earth on January 12th, but at opposition to Earth, Sun, Earth, Mars in a straight line 4 days later. Weird. Why doesn't it line up better? Because again, the orbits of planets are not circles. Mars is even more elliptical than Earth. And that changes the speed at which Mars gets to opposition and closest point to Earth. Don't miss the lunar occultation of Mars. Whatever else you do, if you forget everything I've said today, please go out. It says here the 14th, but locally, Eastern Standard Time, that's going to be the 13th. And Mars is fairly bright. It's like a very bright star, reddish. Large alignment of 6 planets, the 21st. That's because all the planets are lined up in the night sky, the giants and Venus and Mars. We get a really nice opportunity to see in a telescope all the planets, all those planets that were seen by our ancestors, visible to the unaided eye at once. Amazing. Oh, and there's Venus at dichotomy. I never, even I, who have been studying the sky for decades, I did not know that a half phase Venus is dichotomy. Cool. And we saw what a simulation of the occultation looked like. That large planetary alignment, again, Saturn and Venus close on the 21st, followed by Neptune. This is going to be very hard to find unless you have an amateur astronomer helping you with the telescope. Planet Uranus not far from Jupiter. Again, you'd have to know where to look by coordinates for Uranus or have a good star map. Jupiter, you can't miss Jupiter. It's very bright, like Venus. Venus brightest, followed by Jupiter, and then Mars way over. Let's take a look at the other part of the night sky before I conclude my presentation. And again, I'm going to use Stellarium as I did before to point in the opposite direction from Orion's belt, westward. This time, let's go to the east. See, even I forget. East is to the left, or you could just look for the letter E when you go outside, right? So point down along the belt to the second brightest star in the sky. Second brightest star, the dog star Sirius, only 8.6 light years away, but it's not the brightest star in the sky, which is, anyone, brightest star? It's 8.3 something from us. Sirius, 8.6 light years. Yep, right. Trick question. Sun, 8.3 light minutes. If the sun were to turn off now, we wouldn't know about it for 8 1/3 minutes. That's how slow light is. Incredibly fast around near the Earth, but when you get into astronomical distances, not so fast. The dog star gives us part of the winter triangle. Betelgeuse, the translation in Arabic, the armpit of the giant. Kneecap, Rigel, right? So a familiar name from Star Trek, the Rigelians, right? Betelgeuse, there's a movie by that name. You can pronounce this word differently, but I like to say Betelgeuse. Bright reddish star, supergiant red star, supergiant hot blue star, Rigel. Super hot blue star, not super, double star, and it is bright, but it is not a supergiant. Sirius, and Procyon, the little dog star, Alpha in Canis Minor, CMI. Astronomers have 3-letter abbreviations for all the constellations, which number, for you piano players in the audience, the same as the number of keys on a piano. We'll let you think about that. Betelgeuse, Sirius, Procyon. Now, they're also part of the winter hexagon. Have you ever heard about this? I just learned about this not too long ago, in the last few years. 6 bright stars made much harder to see because Jupiter and Mars get in the way. But I'm going to show you them anyway. Let's start with Orion, the bright star Rigel. Or Betelgeuse. Well, let's use Rigel. It makes a better hexagon. Rigel, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, Rigel. 2, Aldebaran, the eye of the bull. It's a red giant star, reddish in color. Rigel, Aldebaran. Capella, brightest star in the chariot rider. Auriga looks exactly like a guy riding a chariot carrying 3 baby goats, right? No. Followed by Pollux in the twins. Castor bluish, Pollux yellowish. Procyon, and the small dog, Crow, before Scion, the dog coming before the big dog, Sirius, the dog star. Procyon was the first sign of one of the first signs of spring. When they saw this rising, they knew it was coming. I'm sorry, first signs of winter. They knew winter was on the way. They knew the dog star would be coming up soon. So again, Rigel in the hunter, the eye of the bull, Aldebaran, the chariot rider, Capella in the chariot rider, Pollux, one of the twins, Procyon, the little dog, and the big dog. Winter hexagon, beautiful bright stars of different colors, which means they have different what? Different temperatures. Different temperatures. So sun, hot, 10,000 degrees Kelvin, 30,000 for something like Rigel. Red stars, sometimes only a few hundred degrees, like an oven. There are some beautiful nebulae in this area. I challenge you to find other famous nebulae. One of my favorites in Orion, near Betelgeuse. Whoops, not near Betelgeuse, near the belt stars of Orion. See all these colors? Emission nebula, dark nebulae. They're called scientifically dark nebulae. Right? What is that? Why is it dark? It's a hole. Dust in the way. Some of this dust will collapse someday to form solar systems. Famous dark nebula. Looks like an animal. Recognize it? Hiding the red glow of hydrogen gas behind it. I'm not going to name it. Many, many interesting things to see. This time of year is a great time to see a flower in the sky. In Monoceros is the beautiful Rosette Nebula, Rosette. And one of you in the audience wants to ask me, why do the objects look square? It looks like they have square edges. That's because these are photographs somebody took and pasted into Stellarium. So it's not the way the object looks in the real sky. It's not square. Monoceros is where you find the Rosette Nebula, and that is mono, one, ceros, horn. What's rhinoceros? Rhinoceros. Rhino, nose, ceros, horn. When our ancestors saw this beast, they thought its nose is a horn. Horn nose, rhinoceros. Monoceros, the one-horned horse. Unicorn. But there are lots of things to see. Do you see this little animal leaping away from Orion, the hunter, making its escape? Because he didn't notice it's right under him. What is that? Lepus. Lepus. Lots of things to see in the winter sky. What I recommend as a quick review is you start in the west to see things disappearing, like Venus, and making a nice approach with the moon right now. The big square of Pegasus, the great square disappearing. Pisces, the fishes. Aries, the ram, looks just like a ram. Right? Right? No? Where's your imagination? Look, looks just like a ram. The fish, they look like a fish. Fishes? No? How about now? It's sometimes it's easier to see these groupings in the sky, and sometimes it's not, especially if you have really clear skies. Then a lot of the fainter stars make it more of a challenge. But the human brain is really good at finding patterns like this, a little easier than you would think. Working my way on over to the south, the bright stars of winter, Orion. The belt points to the bull, Taurus, and the Pleiades. In the opposite direction to the dog, and nearby, small dog and the twins. And finally, I'll be talking about Cancer the crab, where Mars is located now, and Leo the lion. Springtime objects. So look for that in what's up in the spring months. when we actually do these programs live and outdoors, April through October, starting in April. But what I'm going to do now is just conclude this portion of my talk and open things for questions because we are running out of time. I think we're doing pretty well.
Oh, we're not running out of time. If people really got interested, we would definitely be able to keep on going. Although, unless you had other
Very
plans,
good.
which
Oh,
is
no,
always a
this is good.
possibility. So,
We always have time for questions.
oh,
So we have a comet, interesting, a comet. Unfortunately, in the daytime sky in the northern hemisphere. People in the southern hemisphere, Africa, South America, they can see it before and after its close approach to the sun. This is a sun-grazing comet. It comes very close, about a quarter the distance of the planet Mercury from the sun, about 9 million miles. That's pretty darn close, very hot. And so it's in danger of being evaporated. In fact, some comets do get destroyed by the sun's heat. This is a comet with a very easy to remember name, C/2024 G3 parentheses Atlas, discovered in part by a space probe, Atlas. Yeah, easy to remember, right? But I have to mention it because some of us saw it earlier in the year before it got so close. There are 2 meteor showers this year. One of them is minor. There's only a few bright ones per hour, a few at all per hour. So you're probably going to miss the ones that come from Ursa Minor. What's Ursa Minor? Bear. Minor is what? Small, the small bear, right? Little bear. But the quadrantids, that you might want to try to find. And that's going on right now. The peak was last night. And then T Corona Borealis have been waiting and waiting and waiting. April through September, it was supposed to blow up as it does every 80 years. It's never failed, but for some reason, it's been delayed. Could become a new star any day now, bright as the North Star. That's what they said in December, but hasn't happened. We're waiting. It's a double star system where a dwarf star is pulling material off of a giant star in a big disk. Once in a while, that material builds up and then it explodes, and it makes the star about 16,000 times brighter. Wow. Here's comet C/2020. The comet. Here's the comet, closest approach to Earth, very close to its closest distance to the sun, also lining up with sun, comet, and Earth. See that straight line, sun, comet, Earth doesn't line up with Earth. We talked about that before. If you go to Jet Propulsion Lab, NASA site, they have a simulator where you can speed time and see the planets orbiting and the comet coming through. Very cool. This is a screen capture. Here's where it is in the sky, and January 6th. Amongst the stars of the Milky Way, but unfortunately, in the daytime sky near the sign Scorpius. And a different map showing December 1st, it was here. January 1st here, near the tail of the Scorpion in the daytime. Might have a chance to see it at night much later, but it's going to be much fainter later. And I'm waiting for that star to explode. This is artwork by the oldest living space artist, David Hardy, who is 88. I am a space artist, also not quite that old, but if you ask my wife, ancient. Sorry, not 16,000 times brighter, 1,600 times brighter. 1,600 times. Magnitude 2 is like some of the stars in Cassiopeia, visible to the naked eye. Magnitude 10 is not. You need a telescope. Meteor shower, quadrantids. January 3rd was the peak. Keep going, though. A large part of January, you'll be able to still see meteors. They stream out in all directions from a point in the sky, even though they travel in parallel tracks, like railroad tracks, or like the darned close highway dividers on the Garden State Parkway. I love to complain about that. Don't you think that they're closer than normal highway markers? Come on, admit it. Anybody of you, raise your hand if you've been on the Garden State Parkway. Raise your hand. I can't see you, but I can feel your presence. I know those markers meet in the distance, don't they? No, they don't. They're parallel lines. Parallel lines, remember your geometry, never meet. They just look like it due to what? Perspective, right? So meteors stream out from an old comet breaking up as the Earth enters the orbit of that comet every year, every January. 120 is a little optimistic. In Bergen County, I might see one or two in an hour, but I'm going to go out and try it. I'll go out tonight. I'll probably see shopping center lights. What things do I need to do to see meteor shower? Well, there's some special equipment you need. And this can be a little expensive, but let's put it up there. You need a comfy chair, preferably with some comfy cushions, and you need to bundle up because it's cold out there. And you probably want some kind of a lounge chair, right? Lie back, use your eyes. You don't need binoculars or a telescope to appreciate meteor showers. Your eyes have a nice wide angle, and the meteors stream out in all directions from the direction of the Big Dipper, Quadrantids, Big Dipper. There was an old constellation, Quadrantis, that got dissolved in 1930 when the International Astronomical Union defined all the constellations, which number what? Piano players, shout it out. 88, same as keys on a piano. Getting started is easier nowadays. I had to spend a little more money for giant binoculars. The first number is the power, magnification, how much bigger. Second number is the size of the lens in millimeters, 25.4 millimeters to each inch. So 50 millimeters is roughly 2 inches. That's standard binoculars. Giant binoculars go usually from 60 millimeters on up, 70, 80. They give you more light. But, bird watching binoculars are fine too, 35 millimeters. It's more economical now to get beginner telescopes. Celestron first scope is $70, $80 or so. We used to sell that at our gift shop. Kim, do you know if we still have any?
We still have one. It's a great beginner scope. I got started on one similar to that, although the brand of mine happened to be Mead, but I won mine for free. So I can't
Wow.
you can't complain with free.
Oh, yeah.
But you know, it's nothing compared to the professional level scopes we have set up at the observatory. Uh, but you're definitely gonna have a fun time with looking at the moon, looking for planets. Not so much deep sky objects because it's a small uh, light collecting source, but it'll definitely get you started. It's a good starter scope. Plus, it doesn't take as much of the setup as other telescopes do. That's a
Exactly.
set it down, remove the covers that prevent it from collecting light, which is a very important step that you should not forget. Much like remembering to remove the lens cover off your camera before you use it. Uh, haven't done that one at all.
It
Uh,
happens. Yeah, that's an excellent point. And if you come to the observatories, you can look through the observatory telescopes. You can look through the telescopes brought by amateurs. Some of them are larger, like these Dobsonians, which are a more economical way to get more light. If you're looking for faint objects, these do cost a lot more than beginner scopes, but they're a lot less than the expensive mounts. This is a simpler design. It's called Dobsonian, named after John Dobson. There's a nice guide to these at space.com. This is my more complex design. This is a multiple mirror and lens telescope that folds the light path down to a smaller size. So that the light path is 1.25 meters long, something like 50 inches, but it's very short. And that's me during the eclipse last April 8th. So some references for you. Our site is UACNIJ or UACNJ. UACNIJ, hard to say. We are an umbrella organization of astronomy clubs, not only New Jersey, some Pennsylvania, New York. Sky and Telescope Astronomy, for those of you who still read. Any readers in the audience, raise your hands. I can't see you. I feel your presence. They've been in print for decades, and they have very nice subscription websites, and large parts of those are free. Really cool free references. And space.com is the easiest thing for me to remember. Space.com also has a guide to apps. There are 21 Android apps. I have an Android device. Some apps are designed for Apple users, like Night Sky 11. Right? Very good. They're rated. This one's rated best for Apple users, but they all have different purposes for astrophotography, for being free, for alternate reality. I like Stellarium, which I've been using tonight. The installing diversion, the laptop diversion version, you might say. So a quick review: moon phases. Right, you're going to see a first quarter moon very soon, next few days. When the sun is setting, look in the south. You can't miss half of the moon lit up. Called a quarter moon because there's another half we never see. Full moon, terrible time to see anything a week later. Last quarter moon is on the 21st, and the end of the month, great time to see faint objects because the moon won't be in the night sky. Yeah, the Earth is closest to the sun in winter, northern hemisphere. Southern hemisphere is having summer, so they're hotter. Venus, very good time to see Venus early in the month. Mars, middle of the month. Actually, the 13th, don't miss the moon covering Mars. And a large alignment of planets. You can see that any night this month, but especially in the 21st, good time to see all of them together because Venus will be near Saturn. It'll be still fairly high in the sky. The comet, unfortunately, if you have the equipment to see it in the daytime, more power to you. And try that meteor shower. On the 19th, the 3rd was the peak. Do not despair. There's still meteors out there. I like the beautiful moon phase chart that you can print or save at moongiant.com. I have no idea, maybe some of you can research this, let me know why it's called Moon Giant. But there it is, moongiant.com, which you can mark the phases, the percentages. There's all kinds of stuff you can play with there. That site has a lot more than just moon phases. Planets. This is a great chart that shows where the planets are this month, the whole month. And here's where you can find me at Astronomy in Motion. It's all one word, astronomyinmotion.com, where you can play with three-dimensional things, planets, the moon, an old drawing of a planet made into 3D, the Kepler space probe, how it finds planets around other stars. Here's an alien finding Jupiter and the Earth, whoops, right there, against the sun with its sunspots. Earth looked like a tiny sunspot. These planets eclipse the light of the star even slightly, and it can be detected. So somebody out there knows that there are planets around the sun. And if you'd like, check out Mars at your fingertips. There's a link on Astronomy in Motion there, where you can play with a high-definition free version of the 4K version for sale, which has red hotspots that link to short, snappy, really cool videos, goes by fast. It shows every landing and crash site on the 4K version. The HD version has five of those sites. Everything there is free. Try it out. Play with it. It's fun. It's 3D. It's free. And with that, I want to say you've been a very good audience. Find us at UACNJ everywhere. Everywhere. YouTube, Patreon, Discord. And I want to thank you for being such a good audience. We're ready for questions.
Oh, sorry. I was just looking for questions when you switched over. Thank you guys. So we are going to get through some of these questions. The first one that I saw, what was the least light polluted sky you have ever seen?
Least light polluted sky. Well, UACNJ one summer, I saw the whole Milky Way, and I saw a little cloud near just above the spout of the teapot, Sagittarius the Archer, centaur, half man, half horse. It looks to me like a teapot. That little fuzzy cloud is a star birthplace called the Lagoon Nebula. I saw it with just my eyes. It's amazing. Also, one time in Vermont, there were so many stars in Cepheus the King, I could not recognize it right away. So that was beautiful, beautiful dark skies.
Yeah, that
I, it was so dark. I was trying to find a place to. Let me say, I was trying to find a natural place to do what you do in a bathroom, and I came across a couple of people making out, so I had to go elsewhere. That's a memorable night where I saw Cepheus and makeout artists.
yeah, that would be. Um, but yeah, fun facts.
Yeah,
If people are uh seeing a lot more stars than you, perhaps go see an eye doctor because I know once I got my new glasses, suddenly there were a lot more stars in the sky.
right, right.
Made identifying constellations kind of fun
That's a
because
good
I'm
point,
like,
Kim.
oh no, there are so many more.
Right, when you spread out the light of fainter stars, some of them will just disappear.
Right. So our next online question. Um, so apparently we're breaking the office here or the studio.
Whoops.
Uh, Someone had heard rumors there's going to be a fun hands-on stream again soon. And do they get to know when that is?
Uh,
Um, so um, I've been working with a couple people on making a presentation about eclipses, occultations, and transits that happen. And the idea was that I would build the Lego orrery set, which is a model showing the rotation of the sun or the moon and Earth rotating around the sun.
oh, yeah, I happen to have one right in back of me. There's an orrery that I built when I was a kid, and it still works. If you put batteries in it, it lights up. So the idea is put things on a gear. So as Earth goes around the sun, the moon revolves around the Earth. And then you can have an eclipse like that. Now, this distance is completely wrong. It's all out of scale. But you get the idea.
Yeah, so hold on. To give you an idea, I did go out and purchase the Lego set to do a build your own while I'm doing the presentation so we can then model. Um,
Nice.
this camera, as you can tell, is not set up for actually doing any hands-on things that we need to switch the studio around for that. But yeah, so I haven't set a date yet because I'm still trying to iron out some details, but we will post that on our website and then also our social media when that happens or when we're going to do that. And someone's like, "Yes, I want that Lego set so badly."
That's cool.
um, our next question, the next question, which Jan actually answered for you, uh, what would your ideal vacation spot be for astronomy?
Ooh, ideal vacation spot for astronomy. It would have to be somewhere dark, somewhere that gets dark, darker than, away from cities, away from city lights. I don't know, Aruba, uh, the middle of the desert. No, that's not ideal. Uh, Somewhere near, let's see, a hotel. For me, I would love to vacation on one of the moons of Saturn, where you can get a view of the rings, and that moon is called Iapetus, but they don't have tours out there yet. Actually, I'm writing a science fiction series where they travel to different places with views out in the outer solar system, and things go wrong. But we can't
As
get there
things do
yet.
when you try and travel in space.
Yeah, yeah, a deal vacation spot, somewhere that I can go with my wife and my dog. There are dog-friendly hotels. Lake Placid is possible. But did you know there are places, dog-friendly hotels and dog-friendly restaurants?
Mhm. I think mine would probably be doing one of those um, hotels out in what is it, Iceland, where they do the Aurora thing,
Oh, is that the hotel made of
or
ice, or you
or
think it's something more comfortable?
I think I would want something more comfortable overall, but I think like a one night stay would be kind of neat. Not gonna lie, I am a creature of comfort. So,
Yeah,
um,
I saw once a special about the sculpting the ice into a whole hotel. It's too cold for me.
uh, let's see. So our next online question is, and actually, I'll tell you what Jan answered for you. Lon want Lonnie wants to go to Mars.
Yes.
The response was, "Who doesn't want to go to Mars, though? I mean, once it's more common practice to go to like the moon or whatnot."
We'll have to speak to Elon Musk.
Yeah, right now it's a little too uncommon to do that, so, but once they've ironed out a few things, then we can start talking. And the answer to this question is, we had answered it earlier, is yes, United Astronomy Clubs of New Jersey does operate on the Eastern Coast uh, time zone. So that, which is why in our social media posts and whatnot, I do try and uh, specify that, because certain events take place different times depending on what time zone you are in. For example, our one viewer is in Pacific Standard Time, and obviously that what they would be seeing now is 4 hours earlier. So, an important thing to definitely clarify. Ooh, here's a fun question that I don't actually know the answer. Maybe one of our online people know. How close could you get to the surface of Venus and not have conditions that are less than ideal for continued life?
Oh, yes, right. There is a point in the atmosphere where the pressure is the same as Earth's, and the temperature is bearable. And there are ideas of putting floating cities up there. Instead of terraforming Venus, it'd be a lot easier to just find the right environment. I forget the altitude. It's actually pretty high, but it is possible because Venus's atmosphere is very dense.
What is it at a high enough altitude to sustain orbit though without continued burns?
Oh no,
Or
it's in the atmosphere. It's like a matter of 30 miles or something like that. Much higher than you would find atmosphere on Earth. So
ooh,
if you're floating in a balloon on Venus and don't go too far down, you'll find a spot that's just like Earth's atmosphere. Well, the same pressure, one atmospheric pressure instead of 90. You don't want to go down to the surface.
although still you have the toxic atmosphere
Yes,
to
yeah,
deal with.
you have to figure out how to prevent your equipment from corroding. Although I think there's less sulfuric acid there. I'll look into that. I have a book that deals with that particular idea. A book actually that shows how difficult living on other worlds would be, and urges us to take our time and plan it more carefully. I forget the name of the book, but I will mention it next time.
All right. I am going to encourage people, if you have any questions, uh, do get them into chat. We do love answering them, and we want to give you the chance to. I know stream delay is a thing, so by the time I've actually physically said this, and by the time you hear it, we've moved on to the next thing. So I do want to give you guys a chance to get in any questions you have. Uh, but yes, we are giving you guys permission to ask the weird questions that you want to know, or ask the ones you think will stump us, because we do actually enjoy a good puzzle and we do enjoy learning more. So Nerduino, it is not rude to ask questions that would stump us, because there's no shame in admitting you don't know. It's just something you don't know and need to go find out. So, and someone did agree with me. Crowbar Scout said that they agreed the first nights after they got new glasses, uh, getting to actually see each of the stars in the Pleiades instead of just that mild haze that sits right there was
Right.
kind of fun. Right. So while I'm just giving that a couple minutes, I do want to thank you, Lonnie, for another great presentation. And also thank you all for joining us here. It means a lot. We are a nonprofit. We do operate basically on, not basically, actually, on donations from people like you, and even the support of just following, liking, subscribing, both he- here on Twitch and YouTube, on our Facebook, on our Instagram, on our social media pages. Asking the question shows that we are able to accomplish our goal of doing this outreach, getting science and astronomy and our love of these subjects to you guys as the public. It means a lot to us. Uh, so, like I said, and a lot of the time, those like and follow buttons are completely free. So don't be afraid to hit those. Uh, let's see. Sorry, I scrolled poorly on chat and it just zoomed right up to the beginning, and I'm like, oh.
Oops.
All right.
I
Were
think,
there any questions you wanted to ask chat, Lonnie?
I wondered if anybody had seen any of the recent aurora, northern lights. It's
Has anyone in chat been in a
if anyone had been visiting,
longitude?
yeah, visiting Canada or further north.
Yeah, I always confuse. Longitude is the one that lays down, and latitude's the one that stands up,
Okay.
I think. Unless I got it reversed again.
Well, latitude is north,
I
south.
got it
Oops.
backwards.
Okay. Oh, I see. Stands up, lays down. Yeah, yeah. Longitude is vertical,
Wait,
and
so longitude is north-south,
no,
then, correct?
east, west. Latitude is north and south parallel bands with the equator. But
Oh, so someone in chat has said latitude, if you remember as latitude, it's the steps of a ladder.
oh, very nice. Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's the think,
yeah.
think
There are
going
cool
up
little
and
tricks for remembering things like that.
and now maybe I'll actually remember it.
Latitude.
That's actually a good one that I hadn't heard. So hopefully that piece of information will stick now. Uh, but like I said, that's why, we do try and bring science and learning. And let's face it, we all learn until basically we can learn no more because we are no more. So,
Exactly. And that's why we do.
and
That's why we do this.
Crowbar said they saw the aurora back in the summer, but none of the recent shows.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I
next time there's a CME, coronal mass ejection, they may mention it on the news. Then you watch out for aurora a few days later.
Yep. And also with that, if you are going to be looking for aurora, I would suggest looking up and knowing what value on the KP index you need to hit in order for aurora to be visible in your area. And that will be affected by light pollution. So just because something should technically be visible at a certain north-south band does not mean that you will be able to see it. For example, if you are in New York City, technically you might be at a latitude you could see it, but for the light pollution, you can't. So you need that little extra bump, which is why when we got the KP index of 8, everyone could see it. Uh, at Jenny Jump, usually I believe we need about a 7 on the KP index because there has been a bit more light pollution than normal. So that is something to consider when you are out trying to look for places to see the aurora. Alright. Yeah, our viewer said uh, they drove all the way up to the Canadian border one night, but there was no show. But
Uh,
they also live in Washington State, so they're up at the 49th parallel, which
nice.
bit above where we are. Little bit closer to Canada.
Sure.
All right, so it looks like that finished off our questions for tonight. I do want to thank you, Lonnie, for another great talk. We'll see you next first Saturday of the month, so in February for the What's Up in the February Sky. Next week will be a rerun of one of our past programs. I wish I remembered to look up what that rerun's going to be, but I don't remember it. And after that should be a live program, which I have not figured out which speaker said they would be talking or if I'm going to end up uh, speaking on that one. But yeah, so it looks like we did hit all the questions. I want to thank you all. Until next time, clear skies and good seeing. Have a
Thank you,
great night.
Kim, Chris, and everybody.